Oops. Got it. Got it. Good. Got it.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another Conversations That Make a Difference. I'm so excited to have my guest, Christopher Rausch, here, who I will introduce to you in just a few minutes. But first, I just want to let you know that you are listening to Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, and my show is live on the first and third Tuesday of every month, but you will see the replays at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. every Tuesday. The live show is at 5 p.m. on the first and third Tuesdays. You won't find me up at 5 a.m. Sorry about that, guys. But anyhow, you can listen to this network on YouTube. You can even ask Alexa to play Dreamvision 7 network for you. So without further ado, I'm going to start with my serenity prayer that I open every show with. So let's take a moment and say, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. It is also by God's grace that we are fabulous, blessed, and highly favored, living in our greatness, using our gifts and talents, making a difference in the lives of others with passion and purpose, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. And we gratefully say, amen. 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 So let me introduce my guest. The one and only Christopher Rausch is debatably the world's most impactful, unstoppable, no excuses coach. He's a speaker, workshop facilitator, and retreat leader whose life apprenticeship of the victim to victor is nothing short of miraculous and surely inspiring. Today, as an international keynote speaker, Christopher captivates and enthralls audiences with his story and emperors them. Try and say that 3 times fast. to accept, yeah, right, exactly. To accept what life has presented, embrace change, and take action, personally and professionally. His commitment and credibility are indisputable as he so obviously lives his message. And I know this, I know him for years, so I can tell you this is all true. And people leave awe-inspired and motivated to take action regardless of their perceived obstacles. To know more about Christopher and to become part of his coaching, you can go to Christopher Rausch. It's R-A-U-S-C-H, ChristopherRausch.com. Welcome to Conversations That Make a Difference, Christopher.
What's up, Teresa? It's so awesome to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too. I don't know where it's going to go, but we always seem to have something to talk about, right? So, first, let's talk about how you got your name, the No Excuses Coach, and the person behind it.
Awesome. No, I love that. I love that question. You know, it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. I was working with my coach and we were talking about what differentiates me versus other coaches. I mean, because now you can't swing a dead cat anymore. And I love cats without finding somebody who was a coach or was a speaker, especially over what's happened there in COVID. And she was asking me like, what really differentiates you from other coaches, do you think? And I said, well, the coaches that I've worked with generally tend to allow you to have excuses like, oh, I didn't have enough time this week. And they go, okay, well, how are you going to make more time? For me, it's just no excuses. When I look back on my life, going from being, a 7th grade homeless dropout to now my life, looking at what it comprised of, I didn't have any excuses. It was just like, if I didn't know how, I just took the next step and I figured it out and I just kept going and I kept going. If I didn't have time, I looked at what it is that I could cut out of my schedule to make time. So for me, it's like no excuses has got me the tremendous life that I have. And I love people so much that I want them to eliminate their excuses in favor of accomplishing things and raising that courage and that self-confidence. So it's just absolutely no excuses. And some people had difficulties with that. And And I said, oh, if you have a difficulty with that, then that's probably something you should recognize in yourself and maybe address that.
Yeah, indeed. I think we've all had excuses for one reason or another. I know I have. I still make excuses.
I do too. My biggest one is I don't feel like it. And so I have to sit there and say, oh, Chris, you may not feel like it, but you will feel like the result. Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Then just take imperfect action right now and you'll get there.
So how did you start your coaching career?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, it was for me watching two different movies. I watched Patch Adams with Robin Williams, and then I watched Pay It Forward with Haley Joel Osment. Those two movies, for whatever reason, stirred something in me that I could take my story, my tragic story of being on the streets and everything, trying to commit suicide twice, unfortunately sucking at it. And I thought, what can I do to take what I've learned and help other people? So I created this thing called Pay It Forward Coaching, and it was my way of doing a 6-week program with somebody. And what they had to do for me was to go do 3 nice things for somebody else and then come back and tell me about it. So it was my way of sharing my gift and then making the world a better place after watching that Pay It Forward movie. And what I found out of that, Teresa, is the fact that it was my coaching that helped them, but them getting out of their comfort zone and doing something nice for somebody else and realizing just how blessed they really were. That was one of the most illuminating situations out of that. And then from that point, it was like, oh, I could get paid for it. And so I started realizing that people took the coaching seriously, but if they weren't, paying for it, they weren't paying attention. And so I started doing that. And I've been coaching for well over 20 years.
God bless you. So I love that movie, Pay It Forward, and I so embrace that concept. What is the best story that you heard from your people that you were coaching of paying it forward, and maybe a reaction from somebody who was in receipt of whatever it is that they were giving?
Oh, geez. There's so many of those, Teresa. I remember this one guy, his name was Edgar, and he came to me and he was complaining about, he couldn't see anything to be grateful for. I was like, what are you grateful for right now? And he struggled coming up with 5 things in that moment. And I thought, okay, this is gonna be a great opportunity for him. I said, so go out there and do 3 nights. He's like, what do I go do for somebody? And I said, you could go buy somebody lunch. You can go volunteer at a homeless shelter. You can go mentor somebody, just do something nice for somebody else. And in doing that, he found out his sister was involved with a local homeless charity in Orange County. So he asked his sister if he could accompany her one Sunday when they went to go feed the homeless. And he came back to me. We had our Monday session, and he came back to me and he was blown away. He's like, I didn't realize how much I really truly had by seeing some of these people. And he found out that his original idea of the homeless people were drug addicts, and they chose to be there and everything else. But he started meeting people that were they were one paycheck away from being homeless, and they wound up on the streets, and they were trying to make a difference in their lives and everything else. So he came back to me, and his mindset was completely shifted, and he realized just about how abundant he was. And he started taking the coaching super serious. He started doing way better at work. He saved his marriage, all from just realizing how grateful or how abundant his life really was. He was just looking at what he didn't have, and he kept seeing more of it.
That's, gratitude is my heart. You know that. And I so love it. And that story is amazing. So on the coattails of that, I'm going to do something for people that are listening to us right now. So, awesome. And you're going to write a story in this book. It's called A Daily Gift of Gratitude. And if you have a story like what Christopher just said, or you have a gratitude practice, or you've come to a place in your life where you are, you had gone through something where you thought maybe you were going to, or you did lose your job, lose somebody in your life, or whatever the case may be. And somehow, some way, something shifted and you ended up being grateful for all of what happened before that. We want to hear from you. So, and I'm also going to give away 7 places in the book during this show to the first 7 people who text the word grateful to this phone number. It's 570-230-4185. So text grateful to 570-230-4185. And after the show, we'll get back to the 7 people who have a free place in there. And if you want to know more about it, you can just go to dailygiftbookseries.com. dailygiftbookseries.com and find out all the information. That was a great story, because I love that Pay It Forward story. I love that Pay It Forward, and I do it all the time. And to have you talk about it is just like, it lights me up. Yay. But that's who you are. It's something, and the biggest thing that you said there is he was focusing on everything that he didn't have, right? So you got more of it. What you think about, you bring about, right?
Yes.
So when you start shifting what you're looking at and what you're grateful for, you can indeed live an abundant life. Absolutely. Yeah.
100%. I'm living it. I'm living it. I literally wake up every single day before my eyes open, Teresa. I say what I'm grateful for. And then the next thing I've added over the last couple of years is I set my intentions for the day. My
Yeah.
intention is to be present and playful with my son. My intention is to use my words and my actions to make the world a better place, my et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So when you wake up with gratitude and you wake up with setting the intentions, and as you're going through your day, if you find yourself not living in that intention space, the first thing I do is go to gratitude and I say what I'm grateful for. Then I say, how can I reset my intention to be in alignment, be congruent with what I said this morning? And inevitably I shift whatever's going on in my life, because I'm not perfect. People sit there and tell me like, Chris, you have so much energy and you're always so positive and everything else. I'm like, you don't see me the other 23 hours of the day. I have to do this work on myself just as much as anybody else does that I coach. I just found a faster way of me getting reset to get back in alignment with the things that I say that I'm going to be doing that day.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought up intentions. Talk about how powerful that is. Sometimes people just get up in the morning and they just like put their slippers on, they go get their coffee, they and then they sit in front of the news and they watch the news and they hear all about the crap that's going on in life today. And that's so not who you are, not who I am. I do get the coffee, but I will tell you, I don't spend any time in front of the television because it doesn't serve me. And so talk about the power of intentions and how you can actually create your best life with these two tools, even by themselves, gratitude and intention.
That is a great question, Teresa. You know what? I'm so glad you asked that, because the way I would answer it, 3 or 4 years ago is probably a little bit different than the way I answer it now, because now I've been really looking at God's source, universe, alignment, vibrations, frequencies. Back when we first met back in 2013, if you would have talked to me about that stuff, I would be like, no, thanks. I don't get it. Like our friend Patricia, when I read her book, The Karmic Alibi, I was like, okay, this is some really heady stuff. I don't get it. But now I really realize that when we set the intention, we're congruent with our thoughts and our actions. God, source, universe, whatever you believe in, will provide those opportunities for you. So when you set an intention and you're congruent with that intention, you're telling God, source, universe that you're ready for the next thing and you're staying in that alignment. So often what happens is we wake up in the morning and we say, oh, bleep. And then we're like, oh, today is going to be this day. Somebody cuts us off in traffic and, oh, it's going to be one of those days. And we start setting the negative intention for what our reticular activation system is going to be looking for. Our RAS system is going to be looking for, like, oh, there's another thing I knew it was going to be a bad day. And that person's in a bad mood. And then all of a sudden we start framing ourselves into that bad space that we don't even necessarily realize. So when we set the intention and we're congruent with that small picture every single day and we catch ourselves, then we have an opportunity to shift our vibrations and shift our alignment to be in line with what it is that we want most. And for me, as the no excuses coach, one of the big things that I work with my clients on is the fact of what's your legacy, right? So often we're trying to get through the day-to-day stuff. We're just trying to survive. And a lot of us I used to play the someday game. We hope, wish, and pray that, oh, when this happens, or when the kids are done, or when my husband gets his stuff together and all these different things, then I'll start living my life. Mm-hmm. And what I did back in 2008 is I was at a funeral for one of my coworkers. And I thought, it just occurred to me, like, I just felt this whisper saying, Chris, if you died tomorrow, who would show up and what would they say? And at that point, I was super successful. I was making 6 figures, on paper. I had my master's degree. I had all these different things, but God's honest truth, Teresa, I said, 10 or 15 people will show up. They'll bring Motley Crue, Bon Jovi albums. They'll bring Miller Genuine Draft. They'll bring some Jack Daniels, and they'll tell stories about all the stupid stuff that Chris did. And I thought, okay, that would be cute and funny, but oh yeah, by the way, he was homeless and he got his life together and now he helps people. And I just thought, that's not my legacy. That's not my picture. So I went home and I wrote out my eulogy, which a lot of people are uncomfortable thinking about their death. And I wrote it out. And the crux of it from 2008 to this day is that Christopher Rausch will have fought for what was right and what was fair. He will have risked for which that mattered. And he will have left the earth a better place for who he was and what he did. And from that point forward, I had a blueprint. So every single day I wake up to fulfill that legacy. And God's honest truth, my 5-year-old son, if this is the last conversation I ever have, he will be able to watch this and go, Dad walked his talk. Dad lived congruently. And that's what I want the most, is I want people to see the fact that once they have that vision of who it is that they want to be and how they want to show up in the world, and you stick to that, God's source universe will provide those opportunities. It won't be easy, but it will definitely be worth it.
That's awesome. I never thought of doing that exercise, writing your eulogy, but, and how you made a difference in the world. And that's one of the reasons why this show was birthed, conversations that make a difference, because I'm all about it. Like, every single one of us has gifts and talents. Every single one of us does. We came here with them. We're supposed to be using them. It's my belief that that's what, I can do things in one area differently, or maybe better than somebody else. Like, and I experience this in my pottery classes. There are some students that just, they can't play with clay. I can, and I love it. I love it, but that's one of my gifts, and you are blessed with gifts. And I love what you said about, your intentions and asking God, the universe, or whatever. And even people know that I'm a student of the Bible. And I talk about God all the time. And ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open to you. So yes. If there are things that you want, you have to ask for them. And I actually was having a conversation similar to this morning with one of my friends. And actually somebody who I know is listening right now, who I was talking about having 365 pages in that gratitude book so that it would be a full year of gratitude for people. And I said, well, even if I don't hit the 365, and she reminded me of the power of intention. Yes. So I'm not wavering from that. So yeah. So
when I reach it.
Right. Yeah. Right. When I reach it, it's and we're looking for a Thanksgiving launch for this. And what a great time, when people are thinking about what they're grateful for. And it's sad that it takes a one day during the year to shift somebody's mindset from, I don't have anything to be grateful for. And I have somebody in my life that was like that, and now has a daily gratitude practice because they realize how much better life is when you live it with a grateful heart.
Oh, it's so true. It's so true, Teresa. And I don't know if you remember this, but I remember back when we were in the Craig days, I've done this many, many times, is I've gotten on stage, and just to prove this point is I'll ask people, like, what's the biggest problem you have in your life right now? And inevitably everybody raises their hand and says money. And I said, okay, bear with me for just a second. So money will solve all your problems, right? Yes, ladies and gentlemen, like, who in here could use $1 million? People are like, oh my God, $1 million. And they know I'm kind of playing, but I'm like, okay, all things being equal, I can give you $1 million cash right now. The government doesn't take squat. $1 million cash. Who's ready to play? They're like, oh yeah. And I said, okay, all things being equal, I'll give you $1 million. You give me your eyesight. And I sit there and look around, and everybody's just like, what? I'm like, $1 million bucks. You can see with a dog, you have $1 million, you could buy all those different things. It'll solve all your problems, right? Nobody wants to do it. So I'm like, okay, eyesight's, that's a pretty important situation. So how many of you guys could use $500,000? People are looking at me, they're kind of weary, like, what's this guy going to say next? And I'm like, okay, $1 million, you give me your leg, or $500,000, you give me your legs. You're paralyzed from the waist down. You can still play tennis. I've got personal friends that are more adventurous than me, and they're in wheelchairs. They've been in wheelchairs. They've had surfboard accidents and whatnot. I'm like, who wants to play? And then nobody wants to do it. And I said, wait a minute. All you guys were jumping up and down saying that money would solve all of your problems, but yet I'm sitting here offering you this opportunity and nobody's playing. I said, so here's what I want you to do. I said, tomorrow morning, everybody can do this. When you wake up and your eyes open and your feet hit the floor, you are $1.5 million ahead of the game. So that's, if you have nothing to be grateful for, the fact that you woke up, number one. Number two, you still have your eyesight. Number three, you can still move around. You have the world. You have Google. You have YouTube. You have everything at your disposal to become successful. It's just a matter of changing the mindset. So that's one of the things when people say they don't have anything to be grateful for. I know people have lost their hearing. I know people who have been paralyzed. I know people in all sorts of different situations, and immediately every quote unquote problem they had yesterday is completely gone.
Yeah, it's that like leaves me speechless, because, and that's hard to do because I'm always talking, because it's true. I mean, you think you can trade, like you can just have it and not trade anything for it. And then, but you want to use a phrase, you want your cake and eat it too. You want your money and keep all that you have as well. But it comes with a cost. It comes with, your mindset is what needs to shift more than anything else. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But I just want to also ask you, now you are blessed with your son, and how has he changed your life?
Oh my God, Teresa. I mean, the God's honest truth. I was not a kid person. I didn't expect to be a parent. I sat there and was loving my footloose and fancy free life. And, ultimately with my wife, we got married and everything, and was like, that was a deal breaker for us. She wanted a kid. I didn't. So I said, I tell you what, and she's 10 years younger than me. And I said, when I'm 40 and you're 30, I was 32 and she was 22 at the time. I said, then we'll have one kid. And we got to that point and we couldn't have kids naturally. We did IVF, spent $20,000 on it. That didn't happen. Went through the adoption process, was in the adoption waiting list for 2 years. And then ultimately, when I was 47 years old, I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this. And I was literally going to have a conversation with my wife, and wound up, she called me and she said the adoption agency called, somebody picked us. 10 days later, I was a dad. Mind was blown. Everything changed. But to answer your question, what he has taught me, he's taught me about unconditional love, because I was genuinely concerned, like, am I going to love this kid? He's not biological mine. We had a list where every nationality was open. So we didn't know if we were going to get an Indian baby, a black baby, Mexican, whatever it was. We just wanted to make sure it was healthy. And so when Jackson came into our life, that unconditional love, not only for him, but I learned how to unconditionally love myself, because you can't love anybody and want it for yourself at the same time. So it taught me to really look at myself, faults and all, and to give myself forgiveness and empathy for some of the stupid stuff that I'd done in my previous life. He's taught me patience. But the most important aspect of this, Teresa, is he's taught me to be in the moment, where before, because of my situation as being homeless, I've always been a planner, like plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G, like certainty, safety, security. My coach had to get in my butt one time and is like, you got to get out of the survivor mode thing. So he's taught me to be in the moments, because when I'm with him, I don't want to be thinking about the past and armchair quarterbacking anything that I did yesterday. I don't want to be thinking about what I'm going to be doing next. I want to be there with him. And Dennis Waitley, one of the great motivational speakers of our older generation, he rewrote one of his great books. And in that book, he's narrating about the book, but he also talks about the fact, he goes, the thing he's learned about life, he goes, when you're with your son, ask yourself, am I being the dad that I would want if I was a 5-year-old boy? And so whenever I'm playing with them and I find that I'm like, I don't want to get on the floor because my back hurts, or I don't want to, when I'm at the beach, I don't want to get sand here and there. I'm like, am I being a dad that a 5-year-old would want? And it shifts my perspective. So he has taught me about truly just living in the moment and being grateful for those situations and those opportunities.
Awesome. Awesome. And this is where we get to take our first break. So that was a great, I love that. I love that. And many parents don't get that they need to be present with their children. They allow the happenings of the world, their job, their this, their that, to take priority over the children. And I admit, for a time in my life, I was guilty of doing that. But now I realize just how important that relationship is, because it's going to be for a long, long time. And you, as the parent, get the choice to where it goes. So with that, we'll be right back.
Yes.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe-Canavas, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Berg. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, chaos to clarity, and crappy to happy, you'll love crying and laughing through mayhem to miracles. Sacred stories of transformational hope. Available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. With over 350 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
This is Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Did you take that breath, Christopher?
I did. That was enjoyable. I was like, that's so
Let life
calming and
flow.
peaceful.
Right. So we are back with Christopher Rausch, the unstoppable no excuses coach. I have a question for you from YouTube. Somebody is asking if you ever review your eulogy, and has it changed since the first time you wrote it?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. You know, what's funny is in there, I did have being a parent as part of my eulogy, not realizing I was thinking, okay, if I do become a dad. But yeah, the only thing I really changed about that is more about being an impactful father than having an impact on the world. So I did actually update it probably about 3 or 4 years ago. Actually, I was doing a group coaching program. I'm doing one again. I don't do them very often. And in that program, we actually write our eulogies. So I brought mine out and I looked at it and I started reading it back and I'm like, well, it's good. And I'm like, no, Chris, you could actually update it. So actually, as part of the exercise, I updated it and I showed the group on how I updated it. But a lot more was about being present and playful with my son and remembering that, it's not what you say or do, it's how you make them feel. And so I put that in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And talk a little bit about your coaching program. I know that you're going to be launching that soon. Give us a date. How people can learn more about it and even become part of it.
Sure. No, thank you. Thank you for that. The group coaching program is 6 months. It's something I don't do very often. I probably do it about maybe once every 3 or 4 years. My coach actually wanted me to do it. And so it's all about mindset mastery. Every single week, there's a different topic of what we dive into. It's part of normally I just do one-on-one coaching. So literally it's about finding clarity. It's really about becoming unstoppable. I'm finding that a lot of my coaching clients are women between the ages of 30 and 60. I had a 69-year-old woman who was my coach a couple of years ago. She coached with me for a year, and it really kind of opened my eyes into what type of coaching I can do for people. But really, it's about finding individuals who are comfortably miserable. Because a lot of people are like I was, playing it safe. They make good money. Life is good. It's safe. It's predictable. But inside, they know there's more. So it's really about overcoming those excuses, creating a legacy that you're happy about, really getting clear about, your intentions and the way you shift your perspectives. Because really, the crux of it, to answer your question a little bit more point blankly, it's about shifting your perspectives about your past, present, and your future. So when we can shift those perspectives and have the difference in relationship with ourselves, because so many people have a poor relationship with themselves. They focus on so many other people and so many other things that they're not truly loving themselves. And I found this out over the course of the last couple of years with COVID and everything else. I've given quite a few complimentary coaching sessions as my way of paying it forward to keep people illuminated and focused on life. And I started seeing a pattern in these people on Zoom, Teresa. And I started asking a question. I'm like, do you love yourself? Yes or no? And I found out that 70% of the people, I talked to a couple hundred people in this, they struggle with answering that question. And it blew my mind because I'm like, if you don't love yourself, then how are you expecting to have a kick-ass life? How are you expecting to be truly unstoppable? How are you expecting to really make those choice decisions in your life to make sure that you're taking care of yourself with food and hydration and sleep and exercise and getting out and getting some sunlight? And really about the other part of the program is what it is that we're tolerating that we could stop tolerating. So one of the exercises we do is we list out the things we're tolerating from ourselves, the things we're tolerating from other people, and the things we're tolerating from inanimate objects. And when people come back the next week, they usually have about 12 things on each one of those 3 different lists. And I sit there and say, okay, that's fine, but let's go back and really examine where in your life you're tolerating stuff, because people are afraid to say exactly what they're tolerating. Inevitably, everybody comes back with about 20 or 30 things. And so what we do through that process is I invite them to say, okay, what would life look like? How would it feel if you didn't tolerate a third of those things any longer? Like, oh, Chris, the kids, I have to make the lunches for everybody. I have to do everybody's laundry. I'm the only one that cleans the house. I'm like, what happens if you stop tolerating that? Because so many people say they don't have enough time. So this program gets them to be able to develop their self-confidence and be able to say, listen, no. And how to have effective conversations with people to say, listen, my life is important too. What if I died tomorrow? How can we shift the trajectory of what's going on here and stand up and take responsibility for ourselves? So it's all encompassing. It's personal relationships, professional relationships. It's all about, being able to wake up and be intentional and have a kick-ass life.
Yeah. And how you do anything is how you do everything. So whether you're, succeeding in one area of your life, you're succeeding in most areas of your life, and where you're not paying attention. Well, I love what you said about most people are comfortably miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable. And that this is mindset mastery. What's one thing that you can give to the people who are listening here? One step to shift that. Just one little point.
Aside from the tolerations are a big one. People have a lot of success with that. I would have to say, I'm all big about questions. So the question that you can ask yourself is, when did it become acceptable to be mediocre? That alone, because everybody's answer is like, well, Chris, it's never been acceptable. I'm like, okay, so do your actions align with the fact, are you settling for mediocrity in your life, in your relationships, in your business, in your profession, in anything in your life? If you're settling for that mediocrity right now, guess what? Unless you start to change what's inside your mind, nothing else is going to change. And what you're going to ultimately end up with is regrets. And I got the opportunity to read the book, and I highly recommend the book, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. It was written by a hospice nurse. And in that book, it's hard to read, trust me. But in that book, she talks about the number one regret of all these people that she sat with as they passed away. Their number one regret is they didn't live the life they wanted to live. They lived the life that they thought they were supposed to live. So they went into dad's business. They went and became a doctor to make mom happy. They were stuck. They stayed in a relationship for the kids. They did all these things, and they ultimately regretted the fact that they didn't go live their own life. So my biggest advice to people is to really just ask yourself, when did it become acceptable to be mediocre? When did it become acceptable not to take care of myself? When did it become acceptable to stay in a relationship I'm not happy with? And then from that point, answer yourself, and then start taking action every single day. You take one action. I create what's called needle movers. If you take one needle mover action every single day, that's 365 needle movers in a year. Would you not be more confident and have more courage after doing those things? And so that's essentially how I coach. It's just getting people to take responsibility, being honest with themselves, because so many of us are lying to themselves. I did it as well. I'm lying, and I played the someday game, hoping, wishing, and praying. That does not happen. It happens when you start getting real with yourself and you start asking yourself the right questions, and you get the right answers, and you move forward.
Amen. I love it.
Mic drop.
Amen.
Bam.
Yeah.
Got a microphone right there.
Mic drop. There you go. Mic drop. Only you. So, with something you said in there when you were talking to people, when you're talking about people being, falling into mediocrity, for decades, for centuries, the norm was for people to go to school, get a job, go home, whatever. And it was, and I think now, with the entrepreneurial spirits that are alive and well and living in this century are coming alive and doing their me. I mean, my son, I can't believe my son has a restaurant. I just can't believe enough to have a son that has a restaurant. It's like, what? So everybody is like looking at life differently in this day and age. And I think that the need I love Mike Rowe. Do you know Mike Rowe? Do you know who Mike Rowe is?
Yeah. Dirty Jobs or whatever.
Dirty Jobs guy.
Yep.
Yeah, the Dirty Jobs guy. But he has a foundation that helps people to do what they want to do. Like, there are a lot of people who don't want to go to college. They're tradesmen. They know how to, they love putting things together. They know how to be contractors. They know how to be plumbers. They know how to be, and that gets so discounted by the people who are going to school to be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, so I love how he really gives voice to those people who are tradespeople, because everybody, like I said, everybody has a different talent. I don't know plumbing. I don't want to know plumbing. I'm going to hire a plumber, so that's the thing. I got some other questions.
Lay them on me.
All right.
I love these questions.
Yeah. Thank you. Has your coaching changed? How has it changed pre and post COVID, during and post COVID? Any difference that you can see in terms of people who are coming to you?
I've seen, like I said before, I've seen more people coming to me now over the last couple of years, because there's been an awakening of people realizing that they are comfortably miserable, that they are relying on somebody else for their livelihoods, relying on somebody else for their happiness. And so I've seen a lot of people like waking up and saying, hey, is this what I really want for my life? Yeah. And like waking up and actually doing that. That's why I said, a lot of them are females, because women tend to be more proactive about taking care of themselves and getting in alignment with what it is they want. As far as my coaching, no, I think I've gotten, the No Excuses moniker came about probably about 4 years ago. I just did something with my wife this morning. I said, do me a favor. I said, go Google #NoExcusesCoach. And she went on there. She goes, oh my God, it's all you. Like you just see pages and pages, like different interviews I've been in. Anytime anybody has put No Excuses Coach, it's like right there. And so for me, it's just been, more passionate about being very direct, but very, very, very loving. I love people. I love all kinds of people. I don't care what side of the aisle you on, what tall, short, whatever, label you want to put on it. But at the end of the day, I know that my No Excuses brand has, got people to really take responsibility for themselves and ultimately shift their expectations. Because I think that when you go back to for me as a coach, it's getting to the root of the problem. And most times people deal with symptoms. Like when you go to the doctor, what do they say? What are your symptoms? They don't really discover what the root of it is. So for me as a No Excuses coach, it's been more deliberate about finding what the root is, shifting our expectations, adjusting our perspectives about, the things that have happened for us. One of the big things that I tell people now is, how would you shift your perspective if you found out that life was happening for you and not to you? And so one of the great things I'll give your listeners and your viewers, it's something that I do myself every once in a while. Are you familiar with the Joseph Campbell story? The hero's journey?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes. So on YouTube, you guys can go research it. It's called the Joseph Campbell story, The Hero's Journey. It's about an hour and 23 minutes. It's completely free. And when you go in there, talk about shifting your perspectives. So many people, I just was coaching somebody not too long ago. They got into crypto and they lost their butt in it. And they're like, Chris, I'm just so tired of trying. I'm so tired of starting over. And I'm like, okay, you need to go watch this documentary, because as you start over and as you go through this hero's journey, as you continue to learn, when I asked him this question, I said, when have you learned the most? When life was easier or when life was challenging? And he came back and he says, well, I guess when it's challenging. I said, so do you learn from your mistakes? Yes or no? Yes. And I said, well, go make more mistakes. I said, just because you've gone through the challenge a few times does not mean that the next time you go through it might not be the next advancement in your journey. And you need to go through these things. I need to go through them. My life is not perfect. Not every day is easy for me. So I know, and I look at that, I'm like, what am I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to learn from this experience? And so many times we're like, when is this going to stop? And when is this going to end? You just start reframing your perspective and say, what am I supposed to learn from this? And how would you feel if you knew 3 months from now, everything was going to shift? How would you feel about right now? Because so often we're just worried about right now. And I go back to trust, flow, universe, vibrations. If we're being intentional, if we have the needle mover in front of us and we're being, if we're executing on that, there's no other way to go but become successful.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But so many times we just wait and we want this perfectionism. That's another thing that I deal with. Is so many want to, it's got to be perfect. I'm like, F perfection, imperfect action every single day, you will learn it. When I look back and I think about, one of my hashtags always, as you said, is unstoppable. I'm like, my coach asked me again, what makes you unstoppable? It's like, everything I just figured out. I just took a step and I figured it out. I took a step and I figured it out. And now more than ever, the thing that blows my mind is you have YouTube and Google, like literally everybody knows they can find whatever answer they can find out there. But how many times do people take action on it? I get people, complaining about their financial situation. I'm like, what have you Googled and what have you learned? What books have you read in order to change your financial situation? Have you learned how to write letters to your creditors to ask for, well, no, I didn't know I could do that. You just got to take some responsibility, go out there, be proactive, learn from that imperfect action, and you will get there. You will. It may take longer, but you will. But the biggest thing that I advocate for is, obviously getting a coach, but having an accountability partner, having somebody who will hold you accountable every single week, will tell you honestly, and people struggle with this, tell you honestly what's going on. Again, 52 weeks in a year. If you took 52 imperfect actions every single week, where would you be in a year? Your life would be different.
Yeah, so true. It's just a matter of taking the first step, just stepping out of the box. And, I love what you said. Things don't happen to you. They happen for you. And I often hear Tony Robbins talk about that. He's got nothing on you, by the way.
Thank you. I have a few friends that know him personally, and he's an interesting dude.
He is an interesting dude. But I think he was one of the very first people who brought some of these concepts out into the limelight, if you will, so people could know that there is a way to master your mindset. There is a way to change the conversation. There is a way to change your perception and your perspective. So I think that's a huge. I might have to jump into your coaching course.
Let's go.
I might have to jump in there.
I might have to jump into it. Yeah, his book, Awaken the Giant Within. I remember that's a big ass book.
Yeah.
And I remember I started reading it at the gym one day, and I could not get off the treadmill because I wanted to keep reading it because it was just filling my mind. I mean, that's how I got out of the situation I was in. Somebody gave me Tony Robbins tapes, his personal power cassette tapes that somebody was going to throw away back when I was 16 years old. And I popped them like, what band is this? And they're like, no, it's not a band. It's personal development. Like, I had no idea. I mean, I grew up around my mom who was negative and bossy and belligerent and all these different things. I grew up, physically and mentally abused. But I started listening to this, and that's where that empowerment came from. It was like, if we just take responsibility and we start to shift those things, it's amazing what it is that we can do. I mean, literally a 7th grade homeless dropout, living in the backseat of a station wagon with my mom, 18 cats and 4 dogs, out on the streets. I tried to commit suicide twice. Fortunately, I sucked at it. I had a gun put to my head, almost had my brains blew out because the guy thought I was racist. And then ultimately I took a chance and was like, I got to get out of the situation. If I don't, I'm going to wind up in a box, like a coffin, or I'm going to wind up in jail.
Yeah.
And from that point on, I went to school for 12 years and got my master's degree. And now I have a kick-ass life.
And what's the moment that changed for you, that you made the decision? What's the one thing, if you can remember, just one particular moment that you said, that's it, I'm done, I'm going to live a better life?
Oh yeah. It probably goes along with that. We were homeless. We were staying in this sleazy motel, like drugs and prostitution and gangs, and just, it was a horrible situation. And I literally came back from going to the liquor store, and I grew up in Inglewood. So, I mean, I was literally the one white kid in the block with all these black friends. And so racist, I'm not I love all people. And I came back and this guy was like, yo, bro, he goes, you want to buy a carton of Reds? And I said, no, man, I'm cool. I said, I don't smoke Reds. He's like, what do you mean, man? He goes, oh, you guys smoke Reds. And I said, no, actually I smoke Cools. And he started walking up to me. It was probably, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 feet away from me. And I went to go reach in my back pocket, and I had a pack of Cools. And traditionally, stereotypically, at least where I was from, most of my black friends smoke menthols. They smoke Newports or Benson and Hedges or Cools. And I went to go reach in my back pocket to show him and be like, hey man, bro, I'm cool. And all of a sudden he had a 9mm to my forehead. And he's all, oh, it's because I'm black, isn't it? All you crackers are all the same, da, da, da. And I looked at him, and literally probably about 6 months before that, my mom actually won the lottery. She played a scratcher, won $5,000. We're broke. We're living in this cheap motel. She's cleaning the grounds. I'm working 2 jobs. I'm like, we can get an apartment, but she still had all these cats. And so it was just like, it was a combination of situations. This guy had the 9mm to my forehead, and I looked at him, and I said, because I already tried to commit suicide twice. And I said, if you're going to effing pull the trigger, pull the effing trigger. And I thought, here it is. I'm going to be gone. And unfortunately, one of my buddies, Will, came running out. He's like, no, him and his moms are cool. We were underneath a carport. It was dark. The lights didn't work. And I thought he was just going to blow my brains out. And I thought I was going to be dead. And so from that next night, I sat on, I never told my mom about it up until I told her later on, but I sat on the stairs and I looked out, and there was cop cars and there was prostitution. And I just got through helping my friend avoid his dad, who was the Superior Court judge for Orange County, all these different things going on. And that's when I made that determination of like, if I don't get out of here on my own, I will wind up in a coffin or a patrol car. And again, once you start aligning yourself with what it is that you want, a couple of days later, we went to work. I worked with a guy that lived in the motel. We did telemarketing out of this guy's apartment in Huntington Beach, which sounds creepy, but we were setting roofing contractor appointments. We go to work, and this guy, Norman Dodd, I'll never forget his name. He goes, hey guys, I got some good news and I got some bad news. And I looked at him at 17 years old, and I said, well, I've had enough bad news to last a lifetime. I said, what's the good news? He goes, I want to leave you guys my apartment. And we're like, what do you mean? He goes, well, the bad news is I'm shutting the doors down. I'm moving to Texas, but I know you guys live in that motel, and I know you guys have been trying to save up your first and last and deposit, and that's really hard. He goes, this is back in the days when you could sign over a lease. He goes, I want you guys to have my apartment. And I looked at Robert, and Robert looked at me. I'm like, oh my God, this 2-bedroom apartment in Huntington Beach with nice grounds and a workout facility. And oh my God, this would be like a mecca. This would be an oasis. And then I remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. My mom has me in this motel because she's not getting off her butt and doing the things she needs to do. And so I molded over, and Robert says, if you can't do it, dude, I'm going to do it with my brother and a bunch of other people. And because we couldn't really afford the $850 a month. So I went back and I thought about it. My mom said something derogatory to me again. And I was like, you know what, Mom? This is what I got to do. I said, I'm going to leave this situation. I'm not going to leave you, but I'm going to leave this situation. I need to get out of here. Otherwise I'm going to wind up in debt or in jail. And I thought, you know what, honestly, Teresa, and this still breaks my heart. I thought after everything that she had put me through, I never knew my biological dad. I was physically and mentally abused. She used me for all these different things. She was like playing cop and informant. She was working for a drug dealer. It was all this crazy stuff. It's in the book I'm about to finish. And I thought she was going to say, like, you know what, Chris, I've screwed up your life enough. Go do it. And she called me every name in the book, told me what an a-hole I was and all these different things. And so I made that leap. I had no idea how I was going to do it. I was deathly afraid of being by myself and everything else. But from that point forward, I met an amazing gentleman named Bill White, and I started dating his daughter, and he, had long hair and looked like a rocker. I mean, I look like Jesus in a way. I smoked cigarettes. I did drugs. I drank. I was 17 years old, and he sat there and he didn't look at me. He looked into me and he goes, "Christopher, you're only limited by the parameters of your own mind." He goes, "Have you ever thought about going back to school?" And I was like, "No, dude." I'm like, there was no way I would survive in a high school now. I'm too mature for all those people. He goes, "No, you can get this GED thing." So I wanted to impress him. I wanted to date his daughter. It was before the internet. So I called schools and I found out how to do it. I thought I was going to have to take, 5 years for me to make up school because I sucked at school when I was in school, and wound up getting my GED. And I went back and showed him the paper, and he's like, "Bravo." He goes, "Have you thought about college?" And I'm like, "What do you want from me, dude?" I'm like, "My mom told me I was stupid my entire life." Long story short, went to Golden West Community College there in Huntington Beach. I walked in the front door, scared to death of that. They were like, "You can't come to college. You're an idiot." And, 2 hours later, I had my first class, which was an interpersonal communications class, which I thank God I had, because I thought talking was all sorts of different things. And then 12 years later, I got my master's degree. So it was just about, I finally hit the final straw, and I had to take that chance for myself. Otherwise, I would have been in that situation. I probably would have been dead or in jail.
Takes one decision. That's it. One decision.
It is.
And with that, we have to go to our second break. We'll be right back. Wow. I didn't know all that.
Are we on break?
I'm hoping are we going on a break, or are we just going to fly through this?
Even the producers are like, "Damn, we got to pay attention."
They're like, wow.
It's all the truth.
I don't know what's going on, but okay. So I'll keep talking. Somebody message me and let me know when we're going on break. So
I'll show you. You haven't seen this probably. I don't know if I showed this to you, but if we're still live, here's the mock-up of the book that I'm writing.
Oh, wait. Yeah, we're going on a break. We'll show it when you come back.
Darkest hours to brightest moments, transformation from despair to happiness, and chaos to clarity. Real people, real pain, real healing. Life-threatening illness, death, abusive relationships, divorce, and overcoming addiction are challenges these men and women faced head-on. See how they emerged stronger and happier. Buy the new book, Chaos to Clarity, Sacred Stories of Transformational Change by Reverend Patricia Caginello and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available on sacredstoriespublishing.com and worldwide through Amazon and other retailers.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to happy. Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback. Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
This is Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Crappy to Happy. Boy, I love that.
Crappy to Happy. Oh, so that was a 3-book series. I wrote in that 3-book series. It was, first one was Chaos to Clarity, then Crappy to Happy, and then Mayhem to Miracles. I think I talked about the story about Mayhem to Miracles on your show last week about my mom, and when she saw my family members before she said,
"Yep,
they're cooking the pasta." Yeah. Oh my word, that was something else. But anyway, great series. But so I want to see the mock-up for your book. Let's see.
Oh, so this is the mock-up. It's Just You and Me, Kid. I'm going to change the subtitle, but it's a true story of a mother and son survival on the streets of Southern California. But yeah, it's I've got basically 2 chapters to finish. I've got over 120,000 words done. I think I'd share that with you, but it's been one of the most intensive projects that I've ever worked on, and really going back and looking through the details of every different situation that's happened through my life with my mom, and then ultimately my life after my mom. And it's been a labor of love, but I will be glad when it's done.
Yes, I'm sure. I can't wait to read it. So a comment here. If you don't have, they didn't hear in the beginning, if you don't have a show or a podcast, he definitely needs one. What a phenomenal journey. And you chose a path that is aligned with the universe. So yeah. And so that being said, will you tell people how they can listen to you, when your show is, how they can watch?
Sure. Absolutely. There's 2 shows. Actually, one of them's tonight. It's called Raw and Unscripted with Christopher Rausch. That one I've done for about 2.5 years. And that's my solo show. And tonight I'm going to have Renee Marino on there. We're going to be talking about conversations. She's a communications expert. She just recently wrote a book. So we're going to be talking about that. And then on Friday night, so every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's the Raw and Unscripted show. And then I also do the Unfiltered Experience, which is Friday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I do that one with a co-host, my buddy Scott Goyette. And that one is a little bit more, it's still about mindset and overcoming situations, but we get into spirituality. We get into more earthy, touchy-feely kind of stuff. That's where his wheelhouse is. So we basically say the same thing, but I come at it from a bull in the china shop, and he comes at it from more of a earthly. He's got a very meditative voice, so it's pretty cool. And then I'm going to be doing another podcast here pretty shortly that's going to be designated for parents and how to help parents raise confident young men.
Nice. Really good. Well, you're definitely making a difference in the world. You're having conversations that make a difference. So it's absolutely perfect that you decided to say yes to my invitation to come on Conversations That Make a Difference.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. So great. So let me ask you this question. So first of all, before we go on, when do you anticipate your book being finished? No pressure.
It should have been done by now, literally. I anticipate it being done definitely before the end of the year. I'm going to try to have it out by the end of the year, but then looking at all these 90-day programs to get yourself a bestseller. But literally, it should be done probably definitely within the next month. As far as me going back through and editing it, and then sending it to an editor, and then having that done. But definitely before the end of the year. Yeah, it's 120,000 pages already.
120,000 pages?
No, then I'm going to call it down to probably about 80 and, make a good sized book out of it. But it's just getting over that last time. Literally, I'm talking about the final days with my mom. Unfortunately, she passed away actually 11 years ago on Sunday.
Oh my. Yeah. Oh, and you know what? I owe you an apology. You just had a birthday right after I had a birthday. And
February.
What?
My birthday's in February.
Who said your birthday was in July 29th?
Oh, my mother's birthday was July 29th.
Oh, your mother's birthday was July 29th. Oh, well, then I don't feel so bad. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she would have turned 80 on July 29th, and then 2 days later, she passed away.
Oh, my goodness.
When she was 69.
My mom was the same age.
Whoa, trip out.
Yeah, my mom died at the same age. She died at 69 years old, lung cancer.
Yep, same thing. Lung cancer. I was there and held her hand.
Yeah.
That was hard.
Yeah, it's a hard, but you know what? Sometimes we gain so much going through those experiences of life. Like you said, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. There's always something to glean from every experience, no matter how bad it may seem in the moment. When you decide to sit down and really be present to what you have gained from that experience, or any experience whatsoever, it opens a new window. It opens a new door to possibilities that you didn't know were there when the situation was happening, because you're flooded with emotion and you can't find your way clear of it. Actually, our producer says her mom died of lung cancer at 69 years old too. Like, what is this? What is this? Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, I intend on living way past all the longevity numbers in my family. So I'm with being 53 years old and having a 5-year-old son, I want to be around long enough to see him have kids. So my goal is like 110, 120, maybe.
Yeah. I saw a video today. Came up and I was putting this out on, answering some things on Facebook today. And there was a reel of a gentleman with his dad on the back of a boat. They're sitting there, and dad's going to jump into the water and go for a swim. He's 106 years old.
Whoa.
106 years old. And my good friend Esther, God rest our soul, she was so full of life. She came to a WPN, Women's Prosperity Network meeting when she was 100. And when her friend asked me if she could come, I thought, well, maybe a wheelchair, maybe some oxygen involved. No. She walked right in like she was no more than, 60 years old. And she said, "Hi, I'm Esther. I'm so happy to be here." And she lived to be almost 106.
Wow. That's
got baptized full immersion at 104. At 104.
Love it.
Unbelievable. I was just like, so let those two people be inspiration, one for the women and one for the men. There's no more of this dying at 69 or 70 years old. My dad died at 65 of lung cancer. Stop smoking those cancer sticks. You don't smoke anymore, right?
No. I quit smoking long time ago. But that's the thing I've been telling people lately is, like I said before, Teresa, I've had people coming to me and they're mostly like 40s and 50s right about now. Some people in their 60s. Like I said, I had a 69-year-old woman a couple of years ago. That was my oldest one. But people are sitting there coming to me like, well, Chris, I feel like it's too late when we talk about being comfortably miserable. Like I should just stick with being safe and certain. I'm like, how would you feel if you got to live and to be 110 and you look back at your 50s right now and thought, would you regret not taking action in your 50s if you knew you were going to live to 110? They're like, well, how am I going to live to 110? I don't know this for certain, but I watched a documentary recently about the medical advances of what's going on. It is frightening, crazy how they're going to be able to predict diseases earlier, longevity factors, the things that. So I'm looking at it as like, if I live to be 120, I'm 53 right now. I'm just barely getting started and I've done so much in my life. It's like, no, every day is a new day and you continue to go and go and go. And I look at Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. He didn't start that until his 70s. The guy that created Grey Goose Vodka didn't do that until his 70s. We're just getting started, ladies and gentlemen. Do not have that limiting factor in your brain.
Yeah, you're never too young. You're never too old to get started on anything. If you've got it in you and you said something about listening to the whispers. That little voice, that still small voice is your guidance. Yes. Whether it's God, whether it's, the universe, whatever you believe in. I know, if I had followed that advice a long time ago, I might not have experienced some of the crap that I went through. But you know what? I guess we always have a choice. That's the thing to talk about choice for a minute. We have 2 minutes left. So let's talk about choice and how making a choice, you can always change your mind and make a different choice. Right?
You absolutely can. It's just about, the status. When I think about choices, you can have a choice of being reactive or proactive. And I think about it, the best place to start, when was the best time to plant an oak tree? 25 years ago or today? You just sit there and make that proactive choice. And one of the big things that I want the listeners and really to walk away with is that take out a piece of paper and write down the 5 people that you're around the most. And then right next to them, are they advocating for your growth or are they trying to keep you stuck? Because when you start shifting the people that you hang around with, your results and outcomes will shift as well. And you'll start taking those proactive choices. You'll start jumping. There's a great video out there. I love recommending videos. Steve Harvey, the game show host and everything, the talk show host, he has a video out there called Jump. He's in a parking lot. It's like 1 minute, 22 seconds. Dollar for dollar. It's the most powerful video I've ever watched in my life because he talks about the fact when you take a choice and you jump, your parachute's not going to open right away, but it will ultimately open. Your back's going to get scraped up and everything else, but your parachute's going to open. He says, ladies and gentlemen, if you never jump, it will never open. Will never open.
There you go. He has a great one called Faith Street too. Before you were saying, what are you going to ask for? Ask for things, because God has everything for you. The universe has everything for you. Watch the Faith Street one too. Steve Harvey puts a couple of good videos out there
all the time, people.
But I'm so grateful for you, Christopher. Thank you so much for being my guest. And we'll see you again, I'm sure, I hope you come back to Conversations That Make a Difference. And that's all for us now. You heard it.
ChristopherRausch.com.
ChristopherRausch.com. See you soon.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dreamvisions 7 radio network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our producer Rachel and to our station owner Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.
This is Dreamvisions 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy.